The rise of the Trump family was a secret written in the shadowed chapters of America's history, until today, when someone finally dared to reveal the real story. The story of the Trump family may appear on the surface to be nothing more than a tale of business success or political ascent, yet in reality it reflects one of the most striking social transformations in modern American history. The family's roots begin in the impoverished lands of Europe, shaped by the opportunities born from a dream that crossed continents, the dream of migrating to America. But this story carries a truth far beyond an ordinary American dream narrative. Because the rise of the Trump family is not only built on entrepreneurship, real estate intelligence, and political instinct, it is also a layered journey shaped by controversy, internal conflict, public pressure, and over a century of criticism. In this documentary, we open the wide historical timeline of the Trump family from the late 1800s to today. From Friedrich Trump's bold migration from Germany to America, to Mary Ann McLeod's personal journey from the stormy Scottish Isles to the tough streets of New York, from Fred Trump building a billion-dollar real estate legacy, to Donald Trump becoming a global brand, we explore every step with an objective story based on real sources. This is not just a family history. It is also the story of modern American capitalism and political culture. Today, we begin examining the truth behind the Trump family, this long chain of achievements, mistakes, rises, and falls intertwined together. The known history of the Trump lineage begins in the late 19th century with Friedrich Trump, who lived in the small German town of Karlstadt. When Friedrich decided to migrate to America, he was only 16 years old, driven by harsh economic conditions of the time. Due to Germany's strict military service rules, leaving the country without permission was considered illegal, which is why years later, when he attempted to return to Germany, he was denied. This event is recorded as the first major controversy in the Trump family's history. After migrating to America, Friedrich settled in New York and soon headed west in search of opportunity. In gold mining regions he ran restaurants, bars, and boarding houses. It is well documented that his businesses in the Yukon region were highly profitable. However, as noted by historians, these establishments offered a mix of lodging, entertainment, and services aimed at adults. This has been a recurring point of debate often raised by modern critics of the Trump family. With the money he earned, Friedrich returned to New York and invested in real estate, laying the foundation for the family fortune. In 1905 he married Mary Trump, and 1 year later their son Fred Trump was born. From this period onward, the Trump name began to find its place within New York's growing real estate market. But Friedrich's death during the 1918 flu pandemic forced young Fred Trump to take responsibility at a very early age. This chapter shows us that the rise of the Trump family was a migration story that started from nothing. Yet this beginning was filled with controversy, uncertainty, and a difficult social environment, just like the stories of hundreds of thousands of immigrants arriving in America at the time. Fred Trump is considered the true architect of the economic foundation of the Trump family. He was only 13 when his father died. Despite this, he entered the construction and real estate business at a very young age. He founded his first company with his mother, E. Trump and Son. This company grew rapidly, and Fred Trump became influential during World War II through government-supported housing projects. His earnings from building homes for low-income families significantly increased his wealth. Fred Trump's business principles were strict and aggressive. He maximized profit margins, reduced costs as much as possible, and completed projects quickly. These strategies turned him into one of the most successful builders of his era. The Trump signature, spread across Brooklyn and Queens in the 1950s and 60s, became an important part of the city's urban development. But Fred Trump's success was not without controversy. In 1954, he was accused of making excessive profit and faced a federal investigation. In 1973, he was sued by the Department of Justice for alleged discrimination against black tenants. The case was later settled, but it left a permanent mark on his public image. Despite all this, Fred Trump amassed the power to leave a massive legacy to his children. The foundation of the empire Donald Trump would later build was established exactly during this period. Mary and McLeod Trump's story forms one of the most emotionally significant pillars of the Trump family's background. Born in the village of Tong in the Hebrides Islands of Scotland, she grew up in a poor fisherman's family. In 1930, she embarked on a transatlantic ship to America, a journey filled with hope but also uncertainty. When she arrived in America, she could not yet speak fluent English and had only a few dollars to survive on. While working in domestic service in New York, she met Fred Trump, and the two soon married. Although Marion did not directly involve herself in the real estate business, she was a disciplined and influential figure within the household. She was known for her religious devotion, charity work, and stern yet fair nature. Mary Ann McLeod's life is an example of how an immigrant woman could rise in America. She became a U.S. citizen in 1942 and later participated in many charitable efforts. Donald Trump has often said that his mother's personality deeply shaped his own character. Her story shows that the Trump family's rise is rooted not only in power and wealth but also in sacrifice and immigrant heritage. When Donald Trump took over the Trump Organization in 1971, he didn't merely continue his father's empire, he transformed it completely. Unlike his father's conservative investment strategy, Donald's vision was much more aggressive, flashy, and media-driven. The construction of Trump Tower, one of New York's most iconic buildings, turned his name into a national, even global, brand. Through bold use of loans, high-risk investments, and constant media presence, Donald Trump turned himself from a businessman into more of an entertainer. But the financial crises of the 1990s, bankruptcies, and debts made things difficult for him. Yet he managed to maintain the value of his brand, and his television career, especially The Apprentice, revitalized his public image. This era is the turning point in the modern history of the Trump family. The Trump name was no longer just associated with real estate, but also with media, entertainment, and politics. From the outside, the Trump family appears wealthy, powerful, and stable, but behind the scenes, things were far more complicated. One of the most dramatic stories in the family is that of Donald's older brother, Fred Trump Jr. He was unable to achieve his dream of becoming a pilot due to family pressure, struggled with alcoholism, and died at the age of 42. Donald Trump has said that this event deeply influenced him and changed the course of his life. Another internal conflict involved inheritance disputes. After Fred Trump's death, tensions rose among family members, and some even filed lawsuits claiming that medical benefits were cut off. Mary Trump's book, in which she describes the family as dysfunctional, further highlighted how deeply rooted these conflicts were. These internal tensions show that despite the outward success, the Trump family's history is filled with pain and conflict. Donald Trump's election as U.S. President in 2016 took the family's history to an entirely new dimension. The Trumps were no longer just one of America's wealthiest families. They became a lineage at the center of global politics. Trump's political power was built on modern populism, media manipulation, and strong public support. His family, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric, also became key political figures. Trump's presidency left a major mark on history through its decisions on immigration, the economy, international relations, and media battles. Supporters saw him as a disruptive leader, while critics viewed him as a divisive figure. Regardless of perspective, the Trump family is now a permanent fixture not only in business but also in global politics. This chapter tells us that the Trump family's power came not only from money, but also from controlling media, understanding mass psychology, and influencing modern culture. Looking at the history of the Trump family, we see not just a story of wealth, but a layered journey that begins with migration, grows through opportunity, and is shaped by struggle. This story, which began with the hope of a young man from Germany who came to America, now extends to one of the most powerful political figures in the world. But along this path there has been as much tragedy as success, as much collapse as rise, as much criticism as praise. The Trump family has become a lineage closely watched not only by America but by the entire world. Their story offers a major window into understanding how power is born, used, and debated in the modern era. As we've seen in this documentary, The Trump family has never been just a family. They have also been a brand, an ideology, a sphere of influence, and at times a source of controversy. This history continues to show us one thing. Power always depends on its roots. And the roots of the Trump family are among the most complex and influential branches of modern American history.